The meal aboard the Prometheus lasted 3 tense hours. Captain Chen watched carefully as the Ascendary commander, who had introduced himself as High Marshal Krebsal, tentatively sampled each dish with his 4-fingered hands. The laboratory crew had quickly fashioned specialized utensils from spare parts to accommodate their unexpected guests. "This substance," Krebsal said, pointing to a bowl of spicy curry, "it creates a sensation of pain, yet you consume it willingly." Chen smiled. "We call it spice. The pain is part of the pleasure for us." The Ascendary officers exchanged glances, their scaled brows rising in what Chen recognized as surprise. She had instructed her crew to observe every detail of alien behavior, seeking to understand these visitors who could destroy them with a single command. "Your species is unusual," Krebsal noted, setting down his modified utensil. "When faced with a superior force, most respond with either surrender or futile aggression. You offered food." Lieutenant Park leaned toward Chen, whispering, "The translator seems to be working perfectly. Their technology is incredible." Chen nodded slightly, keeping her attention on the Ascendary. "We believe that understanding precedes agreement, Marshal Krebsal, and meals have always been where humans share understanding." The Ascendary Marshal's inner eyelids flickered. A gesture that the humans would later learn indicated deep thought. "Your world faces a choice, Captain Chen. The galactic community is vast and ancient. Some would see your kind as nothing more than useful primitives to be exploited in coming conflicts." Chen maintained her composure despite the implied threat. "And what do you see us as, Marshal?" Krebsal's 4 eyes focused intently on her. "An anomaly worth studying." After the Ascendary departed, leaving behind their translator device, as a gesture of diplomatic courtesy, the Prometheus crew erupted in chaotic discussion. Chen ordered immediate return to Earth, the precious alien technology secured in the ship's most protected vault. NASA headquarters in Houston became the center of humanity's response. Chen found herself surrounded by scientists, military officers, and government officials, all demanding answers she didn't have. "They could have destroyed us, but they didn't," she explained to the assembled group. "They were testing us." Dr. Ellie Nakamura, Earth's leading electronics engineer, held up the translator, a smooth obsidian-like sphere with subtle green illumination pulsing beneath its surface. "This device is beyond anything we've ever seen. The miniaturization alone is centuries ahead of our technology." General Williams frowned. "How do we know it's not a tracking device? Or worse?" "We don't," Chen admitted, "but they already know exactly where Earth is. If they wanted to harm us, they wouldn't need tricks." Within 3 months, a team led by Dr. Nakamura had partially reverse-engineered the translator. Within 6, they had improved upon it, developing algorithms that could detect emotional subtexts across species, something the original design lacked. As government representatives debated how to prepare for potential alien hostility, Chen found herself drawn back to a comment Krebsal had made as he departed. "We are not the threat you should fear, Captain," he had said, looking not at her but at the distant stars. "The void grows hungry again. You may wish to prepare." When the formal invitation to join the Galactic Council arrived 3 years later, humanity was as ready as they could be for their debut on the interstellar stage. Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen and Earth's military liaison for extraterrestrial affairs, watched as the diplomatic vessel Unity departed Earth orbit. "Good luck," she whispered, though no one could hear her. "Don't let them see your fear." Dr. Sanjay Kapoor stood perfectly still as the enormous council chamber doors slid open with a soft hum. The sight beyond took his breath away. A vast amphitheater filled with beings from across the galaxy, illuminated by the pulsing light of the neutron star visible through the transparent ceiling. His team of 12 diplomats, scientists, and security personnel followed closely behind, their faces showing the same wonder despite months of preparation. "Remember," Kapoor whispered, "they expect us to be overwhelmed. Don't give them the satisfaction." Ambassador Lin Chen, daughter of the now legendary First Contact captain, nodded slightly. 3 minutes to cross the floor, no stopping to gawk. Direct eye contact with the senior council only. The human delegation moved forward with practiced precision. Kapoor had drilled them relentlessly during their journey. How to walk in the slightly lower gravity, how to address each species, and most importantly, how to hide their astonishment at the marvels they would encounter. From elevated platforms around the chamber, representatives of 27 civilizations observed the newcomers. Some whispered to aides, others manipulated floating displays, but all watched with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism. At the center of the chamber stood the senior council, the representatives of the 5 oldest spacefaring civilizations. The Xendari High Marshal stood among them, his scaled skin catching the light as he inclined his head slightly toward Kapoor in recognition. When they reached the central platform, Kapoor stepped forward alone. The enhanced translator at his throat gleamed subtly. He had insisted on speaking without technological assistance for the opening address, a decision his team had questioned but ultimately supported. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice clear and steady, "I bring greetings from Earth, home of humanity." He proceeded to address each of the senior council members in their native languages, including complex Mithrai vibrational patterns that humans weren't supposed to be able to reproduce. A murmur spread through the chamber. This was not the behavior of a primitive species grateful for admission. The Qualathi representative, a being of shimmering energy contained within an ornate mechanical frame, spoke first. "Welcome, Earth delegation. We are surprised by your linguistic abilities. Humanity values communication," Kapoor replied smoothly. "We have studied the information provided to us most carefully." "So we see," the Xendari Marshal responded, perhaps too carefully. The formalities continued for several hours. Kapoor maintained his composure even as the terms of Earth's admission were laid out. Technological exchange limited to non-military applications, restricted travel rights, contributions to the Joint Defense Force, and several other provisions that essentially reduced Earth to a client state. It was during a brief recess that Ambassador Chen approached him with urgent news. "The enhanced translator has picked up something," she whispered. "They're discussing troop deployments to the Cygnus Arm. Massive numbers. They're planning for war." Kapoor nodded calmly, though his mind raced. The council wasn't offering membership out of diplomatic goodwill. They needed cannon fodder for their coming conflict with the Void Collective. When the session resumed, Kapoor surprised the council by accepting most terms without objection, requesting only minor modifications to certain provisions. The chamber grew quiet as the senior council conferred briefly before accepting the amendments. What the council didn't realize was that Kapoor's seemingly minor changes contained carefully crafted loopholes, provisions for knowledge exchange for peaceful adaptation that would allow unrestricted access to most council technology, and clauses permitting cultural integration initiatives that would give humans unprecedented mobility throughout council space. As they signed the formal treaty, the Xendari Marshal studied Kapoor carefully. "You surprise me, Doctor. I expected more resistance." Kapoor smiled politely. "We are simply grateful for the opportunity to join the galactic community." The lie came easily. Earth would play along. For now. Commander Olivia Wu stood on the observation deck of the Global Exchange Center in Geneva, watching teams of scientists and engineers working in the vast chamber below. 6 months after Earth's admission to the Council, the knowledge exchange was proceeding at a pace that alarmed their alien observers. They expected us to take decades just to understand basic Council technology, Wu said to Dr. Kapoor, who had joined her at the railing. "We're implementing it in months." Kapoor nodded, his eyes tired but satisfied. The Mithray representative actually accused us of having prior knowledge of their science. They cannot comprehend how quickly we're adapting. Below them, a team was testing a modified version of Qualathi energy storage technology. The original design had been efficient but rigid in application. The human version was already 23% more efficient and adaptable to multiple power systems. "Your learning center model is the key," Kapoor said. No other species would have thought to combine specialists from unrelated fields. Wu smiled slightly. In the Council database, disciplines are rigidly separated. Physics is physics, biology is biology. Our cross-disciplinary approach appears chaotic to them, but it's producing results they can't ignore. A soft chime indicated an incoming call. Wu activated her comm bracelet, and a holographic display appeared showing Ambassador Chen aboard the Council station. The Cultural Exchange Initiative is exceeding expectations, Chen reported without preamble. Council species are fascinated by Earth art, music, and cuisine. We've had requests from 17 worlds to host human artists and chefs. Any pushback from the Senior Council? Kapoor asked. Chen's expression remained diplomatic, but her eyes sparkled with amusement. The Xendari are suspicious, of course. The others seem to view it as harmless cultural curiosity. It's far from harmless, Wu said quietly after the call ended. While they focus on our technological adaptation, our cultural exports are creating connections with ordinary citizens across Council space. Kapoor's expression grew serious. We'll need those connections. I've been analyzing the data on the Void Collective. The Council races have been fighting them for centuries, with minimal success. They're hoping human unpredictability might give them an edge. Wu turned away from the observation window. Show me. In her private office, Kapoor displayed classified Council battle records. Information Earth wasn't supposed to have access to, but had obtained through their enhanced translator technology. The displays showed encounters with shimmering, amorphous entities that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. Conventional weapons are largely ineffective, Kapoor explained. The void entities can shift partially out of our dimension when attacked. Wu studied the footage carefully. There's a pattern to their movements. They react to attacks in predictable ways, even if the attacks don't harm them. Exactly, Kapoor said. The Council races have been trying the same approaches for centuries, just with increasingly powerful weapons. But we might try something completely different. Wu finished his thought. Something unpredictable. They were interrupted by a junior researcher rushing into the office, excitement clear on her face. Commander, we've just successfully integrated the Xendari metallurgical techniques with our nanofabrication methods. The resulting material is twice as strong as anything in the Council database. Wu exchanged a meaningful look with Kapoor. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Implement the new protocols immediately. As the researcher left, Wu turned back to the Void Collective data. We're going to need every advantage we can create. The Council thinks they're using us as tools against the Void. They have no idea what humans are capable of when truly challenged. Kapoor nodded solemnly. Let's hope they never have reason to find out. Admiral Jackson Torres stood on the bridge of the Daring, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical display, showing the devastating Void attack on the Proxima trading hub. His hastily assembled fleet of 27 vessels, a mix of retrofitted Earth ships and older Council models deemed obsolete, was all that stood between 17 billion lives and annihilation. Status report, Torres commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Commander Reyes, his tactical officer, looked up from her station. Sir, dimensional rifts are forming throughout the system. Conventional Council defenses are failing. The Void entities are targeting life support infrastructure first. Torres nodded grimly. Just as we predicted. He turned to communications. Open a channel to all ships. When the connection was established, Torres spoke clearly and confidently. This is Admiral Torres. You've all been briefed on our strategy. Conventional tactics have failed against the Void for centuries. Today, we try something new. Implement Operation Patchwork immediately. Torres out. Across the fleet, captains acknowledged the order with varying degrees of confidence. The plan was untested, cobbled together from human intuition and fragments of Council data on the Void's behavior patterns. Sir, the Council commander is demanding we fall back and support their main battle group. Reyes reported. Torres shook his head. Tell them we're implementing specialized countermeasures and require operational autonomy. On the tactical display, the human fleet split into 3 groups, each approaching the dimensional rifts from different vectors, instead of forming a unified defense line, as Council doctrine dictated. First phase beginning now, Rise announced. Mining explosives, modified with Council technology to create localized subspace distortions, were deployed near the rifts. Simultaneously, Earth's communication arrays began broadcasting mathematical sequences containing deliberate paradoxes and unsolvable equations. The void entities are responding, the sensor officer reported, surprise evident in his voice. They're hesitating. Torres leaned forward. Pattern-based intelligence. They're trying to process the contradictions we're feeding them. On the view screen, the shimmering void entities seemed to pulse erratically as they encountered the mathematical broadcasts. The rifts themselves became unstable, fluctuating in size and intensity. Second phase, Torres ordered. Commence precision strikes. 3 Earth vessels, including the Daring, accelerated directly toward the largest rifts, a suicide maneuver by all conventional tactical assessments. But as they approached, they launched specialized payloads, fusion devices modified to create momentary dimensional inversions. The bridge rocked violently as the Daring skimmed the edge of a rift. Warning alarms blared as systems failed throughout the ship. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Rise reported, gripping her console as another shudder ran through the vessel. Engines at 40%, weapons systems failing. Torres remained standing, even as a power conduit exploded behind him. Maintain course. All ships, detonate on my mark. The tactical display showed his remaining vessels, many severely damaged, moving into final position. Beyond them, the Council battle group watched in disbelief as the human ships engaged in what appeared to be mass suicide. Mark, Torres said quietly. The modified fusion devices detonated simultaneously. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the dimensional rifts collapsed in a spectacular implosion of energy. The void entities, caught in the dimensional feedback, dissipated like smoke in a strong wind. Silence fell across the bridge of the Daring as the tactical display confirmed what seemed impossible. The void attack had been repelled. Get me Council command, Torres ordered, wiping blood from a cut above his eye. Tell them the Proxima hub is secure. And inform Earth, we've found a way to fight back. Dr. Mai Zong carefully lifted the prototype neural combat interface from its containment field, the delicate crown of responsive metals and synthetic neurons gleaming under the laboratory lights. 7 previous attempts had failed, some catastrophically. The third prototype had nearly killed her when it created an uncontrolled feedback loop with her nervous system. Neural pathway mapping complete, her assistant, Dr. Casper, announced from his monitoring station. Quantum entanglement is stable at 97%. Zhang nodded, her face revealing nothing of the anxiety she felt. Prepare the test chamber. I'll serve as the first subject. Casper looked up sharply. Director, the risk assessment team recommended Lieutenant Kim for the initial test. He's already volunteered. And I've already declined his offer, John replied firmly. I won't ask anyone to test a device I'm not willing to use myself. An hour later, Zhang sat motionless in the center of the testing chamber, the neural interface positioned carefully on her head. Around her, medical monitoring equipment tracked every aspect of her physiology. Beginning calibration sequence, Casper's voice came through the speakers. Neural interface powering up in 3, 2, 1. A soft hum filled the chamber as the device activated. Zhang gasped involuntarily as her consciousness expanded in a way she hadn't anticipated. The theoretical models hadn't prepared her for this sensation, as if her mind had suddenly grown new limbs. Dr. Zhang, your neural patterns are spiking, Casper reported urgently. Should we abort? Zhang took a controlled breath. No. Continue the sequence. I'm adapting. On the other side of the laboratory, a modified fighter craft simulation pod waited. This was the true test, whether the interface could allow human thought to control complex systems at speeds no manual operation could match. "Connecting to simulation systems now," Casper announced. Zhang closed her eyes as the connection established. When she opened them again, she was, impossibly, wonderfully, the ship itself. She could feel the thrust capabilities of the engines as if they were her own muscles, sense the tactical systems as naturally as she could feel her fingers. The experience was overwhelming but exhilarating. Running Combat Scenario Alpha, Casper's voice seemed distant now. In the simulation, void entities appeared, their familiar shimmering forms closing rapidly. Zhang didn't need to think about her response. The ship moved as she intended, faster than any pilot could react with conventional controls. She executed maneuvers that would be physically impossible for a human body to withstand, predicting the void entity's movements before they occurred. When the simulation ended 15 minutes later, Zhang removed the interface with trembling hands. The monitoring team stared at her in stunned silence. "The simulation was programmed to be unwinnable," Casper finally said. "You destroyed all 37 void entities without taking a single hit." Zhang allowed herself a small smile. "Schedule the first squadron trials immediately. Select pilots with high neuroplasticity ratings and experience in multiple disciplines, musicians, athletes, people who think across boundaries." 3 weeks later, the first neural interface squadron was assembled. 12 pilots, each now bonded to their ships in ways no Council species had ever achieved. Their obsidian craft, designed specifically for neural interface control, featured sleek lines and pulsing blue engine signatures that would soon become recognized and feared throughout Council space. Admiral Torres was present for their first live combat deployment against a void incursion in the Arcturus sector. As the squadron decimated the void fleet with what appeared to be impossible coordination and foresight, he turned to Zhang. "You've just changed the course of the war," he said quietly. Zhang shook her head. "No, Admiral. I've just changed humanity's place in the galaxy." Ambassador Rebecca Okonkwo moved through the grand reception hall of the Council station with practiced grace, pausing briefly to exchange pleasantries with representatives from a dozen worlds. The annual Galactic Conquests celebration provided the perfect cover for her real purpose tonight. "Ambassador Okonkwo, a moment of your time." The Tellurian representative, Kivex, approached with his species' characteristic hovering gait. "Of course, esteemed Kivex," she replied warmly. "I was hoping to speak with you." They moved to a quieter alcove, crystal glasses of luminescent beverages in hand. The Tellurians, a crystalline species from a heavy gravity world, had long been overlooked by the dominant Council powers despite their considerable mineral resources. "Your proposal regarding the shared maintenance of the transit beacons in the Vega corridor is intriguing," Kivex said, his faceted body reflecting the ambient light. "But the Mithrai have always controlled those routes." Okonkwo nodded sympathetically and charged excessive transit fees to smaller worlds like Tellus Prime. "My proposal would reduce those fees by 63% while providing your engineers with valuable experience." "The Mithrai would never agree," Kivex said, though his crystalline structure vibrated in a pattern Okonkwo recognized as hopeful interest. "They wouldn't need to, under Section 47 of the Transit Accords," she responded, having memorized every obscure regulation in Council law. "With support from 15 mid-tier worlds, we can force a regulatory review." By the time they parted, Kivex had provisionally agreed to support the initiative. Okonkwo mentally added the Tellurians to her growing coalition. 11 down, 4 to go before she could implement the next phase of her strategy. Later that evening, she slipped away from the main celebration to a secure conference room, where her most trusted aides waited. "The Tellurians are in," she announced as the door sealed behind her. "How did we fare with the others?" Diplomat Kenji Tanaka glanced at his data tablet. "The Forelians and Ganteri have committed. The Ixi are still hesitant, concerned about Kulathi reprisals." Okonkwo frowned slightly. The ICSI need to understand that the traditional powers are too focused on the Void War to enforce their old economic controls. Schedule another meeting with their trade minister. Remind them what happened to the last 3 worlds that refused our mutual development proposals. They all suffered mysterious technological setbacks, Tanaka noted with a slight smile. Nothing mysterious about it, Okonkwo corrected. The Qualathi deliberately suppress innovation that threatens their technological monopolies. We simply documented it. The meeting continued as they refined their approach for the upcoming Crisis Response Summit. Reports from the front lines indicated that the Void Collective had destroyed key resource processing facilities in 3 sectors, creating shortages that would soon affect dozens of worlds. The traditional powers will propose the usual solution, Okonkwo predicted. Military prioritization of resources, with their worlds receiving preferential treatment while mid-tier civilizations suffer. And our counter-proposal? Asked Elena Volkov, Earth's economic advisor. Okonkwo activated a holographic display showing a complex network of resource flows. The Mutual Prosperity Initiative, equal distribution based on population and need, coordinated through neutral logistics hubs, which would happen to be primarily operated by Earth-based corporations, Tanaka observed. Precisely, Okonkwo confirmed. The traditional powers get the resources they need without appearing to hoard them. The smaller worlds receive fair treatment for the first time in Council history, and Earth positions itself as the essential intermediary that makes it all possible. As the meeting concluded, Okonkwo returned to the celebration, her expression revealing nothing of the intricate political web she was weaving. In 6 days, when the resource crisis reached its peak, her coalition would be ready to reshape the galactic balance of power, not through military might, but through making humanity indispensable to the functioning of civilization itself. Lin Chen stood at the edge of the vast Chenbiki Corporation shipyard orbiting Jupiter, watching as the prototype vessel Paradigm Shift underwent its final preparations. The ship's sleek hull gleamed in the sunlight, its revolutionary drive system hidden within specialized housing at the stern. "Your father would be proud," Thabo Mbeki said as he joined her at the observation window. The South African physicist had aged considerably during the 5 years of the project, the stress of developing the Horizon Drive etching deep lines around his eyes. He always believed humanity's future was in questioning everything, Chen replied. Even the supposedly immutable laws of physics. The Horizon Drive represented exactly that philosophy. While Council species had spent millennia refining the same subspace displacement technology for faster-than-light travel, the Chenbiki team had started from first principles, asking questions no alien scientist would consider. "Captain Liu reports they're ready for the demonstration jump," Mbeki said, checking his datapad. "The Council Observation Committee has arrived at the Jupiter station." Chen nodded, her expression revealing nothing of her anxiety. "Begin the protocol." Below them, technicians moved with practiced efficiency, completing the final checks on the Paradigm Shift. The observation lounge gradually filled with dignitaries, representatives from 17 Council worlds, including members of the traditional powers who had come to observe what they expected to be a minor improvement on existing technology. The Xendari military attaché approached Chen with the characteristic directness of his species. "This demonstration seems premature. Our intelligence suggests your drive is merely a modified version of standard Council technology." Chen smiled politely. "Then you'll find today's demonstration educational, honored attaché." The ship's communications officer appeared on the main display. "All systems nominal. Awaiting authorization for test jump." "Proceed," Chen ordered. The observers watched as the Paradigm Shift moved away from the shipyard, its conventional thrusters glowing blue against the darkness of space. At a safe distance, the ship oriented itself toward the predetermined coordinates, the Proxima Centauri system, a journey that would take 3 days with the fastest Council drives. "Horizon Drive initiating in 3, 2, 1, the communications officer announced. For a brief moment, nothing appeared to happen. Then, the space around the Paradigm Shift seemed to fold inward. The ship didn't accelerate in the conventional sense. It simply ceased to be present, leaving behind a faint blue afterglow that quickly faded. A murmur swept through the observation lounge. Even the most unimpressed council representatives leaned forward, their attention fixed on the monitoring displays. "Transition successful," Mbeki announced, reading the incoming data. "Ship integrity at 100%. Crew experiencing nominal physical conditions." Exactly 4 minutes and 27 seconds later, the communication system chimed. "This is Captain Liu aboard the Paradigm Shift," came the triumphant voice. "We have arrived at Proxima Centauri. Transit time under 5 minutes, requesting permission to execute return jump." The observation lounge erupted in astonished voices. The Kulathi representative's containment field flickered rapidly, their species equivalent of agitation. "This is impossible. You've falsified the data." Chen gestured to the primary display, which now showed the Paradigm Shift orbiting Proxima Centauri, the planet's distinctive red dwarf star clearly visible in the background. "The data is being verified by your own monitoring systems. Esteemed representative, the Horizon Drive doesn't improve on Council FTL technology. It renders it obsolete." As the implications sank in, Chen exchanged a subtle glance with Mbeki. They had just demonstrated a technology that would reshape the power dynamics of the entire galaxy. The journey that had taken council ships days now required minutes. Supply lines, military response times, exploration capabilities, everything would change. "Humanity is prepared to share this technology," Chen announced to the stunned gathering, "with our allies and partners throughout council space." The message was clear. The era of the traditional powers' technological dominance had ended. A new age, humanity's age, had begun. General Maya Santos stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's newest flagship, as her fleet faced off against the Preservation Compact forces in the disputed Antares sector. The massive view screen showed hundreds of vessels arrayed in battle formation, the largest gathering of military might the galaxy had seen in millennia. "Compact fleet is holding position at 5 light minutes," her tactical officer reported. "They're maintaining weapons lock, but haven't powered primary systems." Santos nodded, her weathered face betraying none of the tension she felt. 20 years of military service had prepared her for many things, but not for the responsibility of preventing a galactic civil war. "Open a channel to all Earth vessels," she ordered. When the connection was established, Santos spoke with steady conviction. "This is General Santos. Stand ready but take no provocative action. Remember your training and your duty to protect all civilized worlds, not just our own." As she finished speaking, the sensor officer's voice cut through the tense silence. "General, massive dimensional disturbances detected across multiple sectors. It's everywhere." The tactical display shifted to show something far more alarming than the compact fleet, a cascading series of dimensional rifts opening simultaneously throughout council space. Hundreds of them, thousands, far beyond anything previously encountered. "Analysis confirms it's the Void Collective," the science officer announced, his voice tight. "This appears to be a coordinated assault on all major population centers in council space. Estimated force is unprecedented." Santos didn't hesitate. "Send emergency alert to all Earth and Council vessels. This is the full-scale invasion we've been preparing for." She turned to communications. "Contact the Preservation Compact commander immediately." When the Xendari High Admiral appeared on screen, Santos spoke without preamble. "Admiral, you're seeing what we're seeing. The Void Collective is launching a simultaneous attack across all council space. I propose an immediate ceasefire between our forces to address this existential threat." The Xendari's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. "Agreed, General Santos. What do you propose?" "My fleet will break formation and deploy to defensive positions around all major council worlds, including yours. We have a contingency for this scenario." Without waiting for a response, Santos turned to her staff. "Initiate Operation Sanctuary. Authorization code Santos Zeta 74. Throughout council space, Earth vessels equipped with Horizon drives began making rapid jumps to endangered worlds. At the same time, Santos opened a secure channel to a facility hidden in the asteroid belt of Earth's solar system. Dr. John, this is General Santos. The moment we've prepared for has arrived. Activate the dimensional barrier network. The reclusive scientist's face appeared on a secondary screen. Though 15 years had passed since she created the neural interface, Zhang looked barely older, the dedication to her work seemingly preserving her vitality. The network is at 98% operational capacity, Zhang reported. Initiating final power sequence now. Across the galaxy, thousands of satellites previously deployed by human vessels under the guise of communication relays and research platforms began to activate. Each contained elements of Zhang's most ambitious project, technology that could manipulate the dimensional boundaries the void entities exploited. On the main view screen, Santos watched as the first void entities emerged near a heavily populated Mithrai colony world. Before the devastating attack could begin, a wave of golden energy spread outward from the nearest barrier node, creating a visible distortion in space-time. The void entities recoiled as if struck. Where their dimensional rifts had begun to form, stable space reasserted itself. The golden energy continued to spread, connecting with other nodes in an expanding network. "It's working," Santos whispered, as reports flooded in from across Council space. "The barrier is holding." In the hours that followed, the most significant threat the galaxy had ever faced was systematically neutralized. The Void Collective, finding itself unable to penetrate normal space, retreated to the dimensional boundaries from which it had emerged. As the immediate crisis passed, Santos looked out at the stars, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had just saved every sentient species in Council space, and in doing so, had irrevocably changed their place in the cosmic order.